Hello, and welcome to Rosa Laura. If this is your first time visiting the channel, it's so lovely to meet you. And if you're returning, it's so wonderful to have you back. My name is Rosa, I'm a digital artist, and today I am drawing a comic. This comic is of my character, Knaphe Exley, from a Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition campaign, and an NPC from that very same campaign named Sir Bertrand. Sir Bertrand is, as said, an NPC. He is the ducal heir of Bulwark Isle, and therefore he is a very important individual. He was sent out on a very important mission by his mother, the Duchess of Bulwark Isle, to get a very special sword that would inspire and help the people have the strength that they needed to carry on in the midst of a terrible invasion of devils. And Bertrand went out with his band, including Elias, Knaphe's uncle, to go and get the sword. They suffered many casualties along the way, but eventually our party came after them to provide some support, and we have secured the sword for the people. Obviously, this is not a scene that has to do with any of that. This is a very intimate scene between Knaphe and Bertrand, imagined as being after the main events of the Bulwark Isle arc, and letting them relax and maybe even get together in this case. I, of course, had the Dungeon Master's permission to make a piece of art like this. In fact, if you find it interesting or you like these two, the comic is actually going to be fully voiced. If you stick around for the end of the comic, you'll get to hear us go through it and voice act out the entire scene. So if that interests you, stick around. But obviously, I had to get my Dungeon Master's consent to record his voice, as well as use his character. And so I wanted to kind of take this time and this opportunity to kind of talk about consent at the table, consent outside of the table, and what that means when you are someone who makes a bunch of art. At the beginning of any given campaign, there's sort of this excitement, like, oh, please draw art of my character. I would love that. And myself, as a sort of like the resident artist of any given table that I'm at, though at my table for chains, I am super excited and happy that I'm not the only artist. There's several of us there. But everybody loves getting art of their character. There's this presumed consent that is oftentimes present that can sometimes get taken for granted. And when making specific kinds of art, if you want to go for injury, for gore, for death even, or for something more along these lines, right? Something that's sexual. You want to make sure that you have everybody's express consent to make those pieces of art. Whether that's going to be fan fiction, whether that's going to be digital or traditional media, you want to make sure that everybody's on the same page, and whatever you do with their character is something that they feel personally comfortable with. So in going forward with this comic, I made sure to get my Dungeon Master's permission first, talking to him about like, oh, I would really like to make, a little scene, a little fan fiction style comic of Knaphe and Bertrand kind of getting together after all this fighting, where they can finally have a moment to relax and unwind and kind of enjoy this other person that they've gotten to know a little bit on the journey. Bertrand especially being a little bit more straight-laced, being the ducal heir, Knaphe is a little bit of a wild card for him, a little bit of a rogue, even though she herself would never self-describe that way. But I got his permission, and he said yes, and throughout the process, especially after the first round of sketches were done, I made sure to get his, okay on everything. I sent him all the sketches. I was like, how do they look? Do you like them? And he said, they're great. but Bertrand is as tall as Knaphe is. And so I made all my adjustments. In fact, I just went through and did that and made sure that they were correctly proportioned to one another. Sometimes when you want to make fan fiction of two characters, do a written role play, whatever it is, there can be a bit of a stigma around the introduction of sexual elements. And I wanted to talk about the idea of exploring your character through their sexuality. Whatever your character is into, whatever kind of person they gravitate towards, whatever they enjoy in the bedroom is an extension of that character's personality. And I think that sometimes we will avoid a character's sexuality because we think, oh, well, that's cringe, or, oh, I don't want to seem like I'm obsessed with my character having sex. And I think that maybe as a larger community, we could be better about allowing people to explore their characters in multiple ways. We aren't weird, obviously, about how my character fights, the kind of style that they bring to combat. But when it comes to a character's sexual preferences, sometimes we clam up. Part of this is just socialization, and it's the society that we've been born and raised in, where we feel a little bit more shame around the idea of sexuality and the bedroom. But I don't want for us to have to feel that way. And so, posting this, sharing this with everyone on YouTube, on Patreon, everywhere, for me is kind of allowing myself to relax. I have kind of been afraid in the past to share, indulgent pieces of art or, headcanons about my character and what they might enjoy in the bedroom because of that stigma. And I don't want for people to feel like that. As long as everybody in this conversation is consenting to that conversation, there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to. And what your character likes in the bedroom, as I said, is an extension of themselves. How does the way they interact with their partners in an intimate setting reflect or contradict their personality? Do they want to let go of control? Is it the only place they feel that they have control? In what ways do they express pleasure? In what ways do they pursue their partner? I think that all of these questions are worth asking. I think that if we explore our characters from multiple approaches and axes of understanding, at the end of the day, you're going to create a deeper, more interesting version of that character. So I want for showing this comic to you to act as a kind of permission. I want you to, if you like, think about what your character does enjoy, whether that's a favorite food, a book, how they interact with the world, how they interact with themselves, how they think and feel about themselves. And yes, if you want, be able to indulge in what they do enjoy about sex, about intimacy, whether that is sexual intimacy or sensuous intimacy, how they express themselves platonically, how they reflect on their relationships with others. These are all extremely fun things to do, not just important from a character standpoint, but enjoyable for the people who get to interact with your character and for people to be able to explore about their own characters. Something that I've seen at the tables that I have participated at is once a door is opened, other people will participate as well. When you open the door, when you're the first one to give that permission and you're like, I would like to talk about this, you'd be surprised how many other people pipe up and were a little bit too afraid before. But now that you've done it, they can. So this is me giving you permission to have fun with your OC and enjoy yourself. Similarly, breaking into a different media type can be a little bit difficult. I have drawn a couple of comics in the past, and something that I like about the way that I approach comics is I like to start with an atmosphere. I don't let my paper or my canvas stay white for very long. I will oftentimes sketch out the shapes of the panels and then the figures inside of them on white, but as soon as I can afterwards, I'll switch it over to a color palette that I think reflects the atmosphere of the scene. Here with Knaphe and Bertrand, I wanted things to feel natural but intimate. Warm browns, soft blues, and a golden candlelit glow that covers little bits of the canvas. There's something about the natural feel of this scene that communicates to me a sense of comfort, and that's something that I wanted to capture here. When characters are intimate with one another, when they reveal their desires or the things that they truly crave, it can be a very vulnerable moment for a character. If you ever get the chance to roleplay out these moments, they can feel very vulnerable for you as a player as well. But I think that they're worth pursuing every time. When I make comics, I oftentimes will have a layer of sketch, and then on top I will do a cleanup sketch. I don't do a lot of fully lined comics. I understand that if I developed my line art a little bit more and pressed a little bit harder to have a crisper design, I could probably do away with my sketch layer, but I like the kinetic movement and the unsurety that keeping the sketch layer provides, both for my eye as the artist, but also for my viewer's eye, somebody who is enjoying watching the process or just reading a comic in general. I think a human touch is so important, and the flaws that we see in our art are beautifully human. Now that I'm done with all of the lettering, or just about anyway, I'm going to quiet down so you can enjoy the final step, which is the color. After the color, there will be a full voicing of the comic, so stay tuned, and I hope that you enjoy it.
You want something, Exley?
Ha! I thought I was looking at him. Was I wrong?
Not like that. I can see it in your eyes. A good captain just can. You want more than just me. What is it? You can tell me, Knaphe.
It's an impossible dream. One I know I'll never truly have.
Then you've nothing to lose.
Then ask me truly to join your band. Tell me you know I am a dame worthy of picking, honorable and true, that you'll save me from my fate. Help me believe, just for tonight, that I could be what I was meant to be.
Done. And if any band was so lucky as to have you, Dame Exley, I'd pray that it was mine. Be my sentinel, and I'll never lose my way.
Take me to bed, Captain.